Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back once again. The year is 2003. The place is Iraq. This was a humiliating and painful time when the American regime destroyed Saddam Hussein's government. As a result, Iraq was left covered in dead bodies. Screams echoed everywhere, and remnants of war could be seen at every corner. Things no one could easily ignore. Amid all this, we see a 12-year-old boy named Ahmed walking through Iraq's sandy roads toward the south. He has received news that Iraqi prisoners captured during the 1991 war were recently released by the Americans, and his father was said to be among them. With Ahmed is his elderly grandmother, who has been walking for miles just to see her son again. Their faces clearly show that they have been on this journey for months, yet their destination is still far away. Even so, the grandmother has not lost hope. She trusts her God completely, believing he will reunite her with her son somehow. With that faith, she continues walking across the vast desert. Ahmed, however, is exhausted. He asks her to return home, but she refuses to go back without meeting her son. A little later, while the grandmother is praying, a truck passes by. Ahmed jumps forward, hoping for a lift, but the truck doesn't stop. This deeply hurts him. How could someone be so heartless? Soon another vehicle arrives. This time, the grandmother steps forward. Ahmed asks the driver if he can take them south. The driver says the south is 1,000 miles away, but he can drop them in Baghdad for 500 dinars. Hearing this, Ahmed angrily calls him a robber, accusing him of taking advantage of their helplessness. Before things escalate, the grandmother quietly places the money in the driver's hand. He allows them to sit in the back. Ahmed is unhappy about paying so much, but the grandmother knows that if they let this vehicle go, another may not come anytime soon. She refuses to lose this chance. As they travel, we notice a flute in Ahmed's hand. He keeps trying to play it but can't quite manage. It was given to him by his father, who was a singer. Ahmed dreams of following in his footsteps. Later, during a stop, the driver, Rahman, gently asks Ahmed about his parents. Ahmed explains that his mother died when he was very young, and around the same time, his father was taken away by force. He barely remembers his father's face now. Rahman's heart softens. Like many others, he has seen countless tragic stories in his broken country. Slowly, a bond forms between Rahman and Ahmed. During the journey, the grandmother falls asleep. Rahman puts on his father's jacket, revealing that his father was actually a soldier, not a musician. Music had been his dream, but circumstances crushed it. Suddenly, the vehicle stops. U.S. Army trucks block the road ahead. They warn that going further is dangerous. When the grandmother wakes and sees Ahmed wearing the jacket, she becomes upset. She doesn't want him to become a soldier like his father, because a soldier's life holds only pain. That night, they camp there. Rahman asks the grandmother why she brought a child through such dangerous conditions when she doesn't even know if her son is alive. He says he doesn't believe her son survived. But the grandmother has unwavering faith in God. Rahman, however, is an atheist. He believes if God existed, innocent people wouldn't suffer like this. The next morning, they reach Baghdad. Smoke fills the city. Rahman drops them at a bus station and tells them a bus will take them south. He tries to return the money, but the grandmother refuses, so he gives it to Ahmed and leaves. Later, they learn no bus will arrive that day. They eat what little they have, and the grandmother asks Ahmed to read a letter again, one he has read many times already. The letter is from Yusuf Ali, a man who served in Ahmed's father's unit before the American attack. As Ahmed reads, the grandmother falls asleep. Ahmed notices a boy his age selling cigarettes. Soon a bus arrives, but Ahmed is nowhere to be found. The grandmother panics, searching everywhere, but no one understands her Kurdish language. Just as the bus is about to leave, Ahmed returns. He had been helping the boy Qasim sell cigarettes. Ahmed boards the bus, but the grandmother is left behind. The bus starts moving. She screams and cries, but it doesn't stop. Qasim sees this and runs after the bus, forcing it to stop. The grandmother finally gets on. The driver says he didn't understand her language and thought she was a beggar. As the bus leaves, Qasim waves goodbye and tells Ahmed to come back soon. Their friendship lasted only minutes, yet felt like years. The journey south continues through rough desert roads. Iraqi vehicles pass while American soldiers search everything. The land belongs to Iraqis, but control belongs to someone else. The next morning, the bus breaks down. Ahmed steps away to freshen up. They reached the bus stand and boarded a bus going toward Baghdad. During the journey, a man asked Ahmed if he knew music, noticing the flute in his hand. Ahmed replied that he didn't know how to play it yet, but one day he would become a great musician and live his father's dream, the dream his father always had. The man smiled, gave Ahmed some oranges to eat, and said, "Stay strong and keep trying. You will achieve everything. If God wills, He can even give water to a blind man in the desert." After some time, the bus stopped due to a mechanical problem, and everyone began walking. On this journey, Musa was also with them, the same man Ahmed had met on the bus. Musa spoke Kurdish well, which helped them communicate easily. That night, the grandmother shared her hardships with Musa. In return, Musa opened up about a painful chapter of his life, one that slowly killed him every day. He revealed that he had been part of the Al-Anfal campaign, the same operation during Saddam Hussein's rule in which countless Kurdish people were brutally killed. Hearing this, the grandmother angrily called him a murderer. Musa explained that he had not done those things willingly. He was forced. If he had refused, he would have been killed. But the grandmother refused to listen, and Musa walked away. The next morning, Ahmed went into the fields to relieve himself. When he returned, he tried to start a nearby water engine but failed. Just then, Musa arrived and managed to start it, and water began flowing strongly. But when the grandmother saw her grandson standing beside a man she believed was a killer, she pulled him away angrily. Musa knew he had made terrible mistakes. He had begged God for forgiveness countless times. Watching the grandmother and Ahmed walk away alone broke his heart. It wasn't safe for a woman and a child to travel alone in such conditions. So he followed them and told them he had heard that a badly injured prisoner had been brought to a nearby mosque. He said there was a chance that man could be the person they were searching for. At first, the grandmother ignored him, but eventually she agreed and went with him to the mosque. When she entered, the man inside was not her son, and her heart shattered. Outside, someone informed her that a mass grave had been discovered nearby. Perhaps she would find the one she was searching for there. For a mother, there could be nothing more cruel than this. To find her son, she now had to go to a graveyard. Just for one last glimpse, she had walked across all of Iraq on her feet. When they reached the cemetery, they still found nothing. The grandmother's patience finally broke. She sat beside an unmarked grave and began to cry. In her hands was a photograph of her son. She spoke to a woman sitting nearby, pouring out her pain. How this country had given them birth but now refused to give them even a peaceful death. This, she said, was the true meaning of war. One decision by the American Army had extinguished countless homes. In that graveyard, everyone was searching for someone. Someone's son, someone's husband. Some people were relieved just to find bones. At least they could touch what remained of their loved one. Musa said goodbye. The rest of the journey would have to be made alone. The grandmother had forgiven him, but Ahmed struggled to let him go. Musa told him that if he ever wanted to meet him again, he could find him at the mosque. He also promised to take Ahmed one day to Babylon Garden, a place Ahmed dreamed of visiting. They returned to Baghdad. As they stepped down, they saw a large crowd gathered. They learned another mass grave had been found, thousands of bodies buried together, with skeletons now surfacing. Ahmed sat beside one skeleton and measured the skull with his hands, wondering if it could be his father. The sight was like a nightmare no one would want to witness even with open eyes. A little distance away, he saw his grandmother crying beside another skeleton. Ahmed rushed to her and told her it wasn't his father. The tag on the remains read Umar. Hearing this, the grandmother stood up and continued the journey once more. They received news of yet another mass grave, this one holding soldiers and civilians who had fought against Saddam Hussein or the American Army. There were so many bodies that they couldn't be buried properly and were dumped into large pits. Such mass graves existed all across Iraq. The grandmother and grandson continued searching, traveling again. Then came a moment when Ahmed felt his grandmother might be feeling cold. Even though the weather was hot, he called out to her. But the grandmother had closed her eyes forever. Ahmed understood the truth instantly. Though young, the hardships he had endured were enough to break even the strongest adult. Now he was completely alone. Seeing his father was only a dream, one he had never truly lived. And his grandmother had given her life trying to reunite him with his father. This is the story of 12-year-old Ahmed, left with nothing but loneliness and the flute his father gave him, playing it as he tries to survive this unbearable pain. How did you find this story? Let us know in the comments.